Last year, my 82-year-old father lost his battle with esophageal cancer. His death came 19 days after diagnosis, and although this might sound like a swift and merciful outcome, his suffering in his last days is something I will never be able to erase from my mind. Despite my father's pleas to his doctors to end his pain, he was pacified with more drugs and promises to keep him comfortable. The emptiness of these promises was revealed in the excruciating pain he endured, which no amount of morphine could subdue. As a psychologist whose role it is to preserve life, I understand the moral, social and ethical complexities associated with assisted dying. However, in cases of terminal illness, where death is inevitable and the preservation of life only serves to pacify the living, how can we give people the freedom to choose when and how their life should end?
I'll start with the politicians because it's obviously going to be a big political issue. And Scott Ryan, you first.
I'm philosophically uncomfortable with euthanasia, but the main reason I oppose it and wouldn't vote for it is a lot of us have a story like that, and I'm sorry to hear that. I've never experienced someone that close to me having suffered that way. But we have seen, despite all the best endeavours in our health system and incredibly caring professionals, errors, occasional malpractice, as we've seen, and I fear that our health system is simply not able to guarantee that no innocent person will be put to death early or that there won't be pressure on resources. I don't think our system is geared up for it. I'm uncomfortable saying it, putting it on them. And while we do constantly have to push the boundaries of end-of-life care, sadly, I think the risk of innocent people dying too early or pressure being put on elderly relatives or misadventure or error is too great.
Do you accept, and does the government accept, the federal government accept, that if the Victorian government legislates for this to happen, there's not much you can do about it?
Look, I was going to add, I don't know what the government's position on that is. My personal view is this is a matter for the Victorian Parliament. It is competent to decide this. It is a state law. So I wouldn't vote to override, but I would not personally support euthanasia being...
Right, let's hear from Clare O'Neil.
I'm really sorry about that story. It's a very sad one, and actually my experience, my view on this is informed by, I guess, a somewhat similar experience. When I was 4, my father was diagnosed with cancer and then he died when I was 11, so really that kind of formative years of my childhood were being very close to someone who was dying, and the thing that I've taken from that experience is a very deep belief that people have the right to have a good death. Of course, as a politician, I don't just use my personal experiences to make decisions. We have to look at the evidence. And what the evidence, especially the Victorian parliamentary inquiry that's compiled a lot of this, the evidence shows us is that the fact that euthanasia is not legal in Australia is causing incredible pain to a lot of people. It's causing families to commit horrible crimes that are motivated only by love and compassion. It's causing doctors to break the law, and it's causing incredible heartache for people who are watching their family member die in agonising pain and they're unable to do anything about it. The Victorian Parliamentary Inquiry also found some really important things when they looked at other jurisdictions where euthanasia is legal. So the slippery slope argument, as we often call it, isn't really founded in reality. And where euthanasia is legal in different parts of the world, we see very, very small numbers of people using the laws, very, very small numbers of people. But for a lot of the people who do use them, it's knowing that they're there when they need them. And we see usually it's people who are in the very last weeks of a very painful death, and a death where palliative care is just not going to be able to provide them with relief. So I think for that reason it is something we need to look at.
Ted Lupkin.